Welcome to Conversations with Barbara. I'm Barbara Kanellopoulos, and my special guest today is Tracey Crago, who is the Executive Director of Volunteers in Public Schools, better known as VIPS. Welcome to the program, Tracey.
Thank you, Barbara. Nice to be here.
And there may be viewers, especially people who are new to Falmouth, who perhaps haven't heard much about the VIPS program. So let's begin by having you tell us what the organization is all about.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, Falmouth Volunteers in Public Schools is somewhat unique. It's an organization that was created as a way to bring the community into the public education in Falmouth. And by really opening the doors of the schools to provide opportunities for volunteers of all backgrounds and interests to come into the schools, work with students and staff. And one of the other benefits of Falmouth VIPS is that we help sort of build community partnerships for the schools. So we've had a lot of longtime partners over the years who have really been able to bring both resources, materials, services, and of course, funding for programs into the schools for us. So that started back in 1982. The first volunteers appeared in Falmouth High School as tutors, 8 people, and we have since grown to just under 1,000 volunteers who contribute at least 1 hour every school year.
That's extraordinary. That is wonderful. And I suppose now that, like so many other organizations, you've had to do some planning because with this a pandemic, you'll not be able to move around as much. What sorts of things have you been forced to do?
Yeah, it's been challenging. Actually, it's, the good news is the volunteers are so committed to helping the students, and they've built such great relationships with the students that I got so many emails in the beginning and calls from volunteers who said, we want to stay involved, so please think of ways that you can, keep us involved. And I think in the beginning it was a little tricky because I think we all expected to go back to school this year. And then when the word came that, schools would be closed for the rest of the year, which of course was a great decision, it really helped us sort of launch some of those ideas that we had thought about remote volunteer opportunities. So we have just launched a pen pal program, so a good old fashioned letter writing program.
Oh, really?
That's been, we've had some great response from both volunteers, but also from staff, recommending students for the program that they thought would enjoy it. Many of the staff members themselves have offered to become a pen pal, so that's been fun. Our mentoring program really never skipped a beat. We just sort of shifted. So now our mentoring program has found a way to let mentors communicate with students in a variety of ways, whether it's through the phone or through email or texting, or even some have opted for Zoom meetings, so they're just following the protocols of the districts for doing that. So the mentoring relationships piece is so key to kids to have that continuity. And we've also launched a Wellness Wednesday program, so we're asking our volunteers and community members if they want to submit a short 3-minute video. And it could be anything from stretching to birding tips to sidewalk art or anything that they like, and gardening, just to give kids a little break from screen time, from homework time, to just get outside or even help out in the kitchen, learn how to make a smoothie, learn how to brush their dog. So we're just going to start bringing those kinds of things into the schools as well, the kids as well.
That strikes me as such an imaginative use of planning. It's all this creativity. This is wonderful. It seems to me the more we think about what can be done, that the possibilities are endless. Wonderful.
It's true.
That is extraordinary and so wonderful to hear.
Yeah, we've been really happy with people being just really sort of thinking outside the box, and instead of dwelling on sort of the negatives and what we can't do, people have really sort of shifted to thinking about, well, what can we do? So.
And I think what's particularly interesting is that the country's leading educators are writing and speaking in podcasts and in webinars about the importance of relationships, that with all this stress on academics and making sure that no one is going to fall behind, we tend to forget how important it is for these rich relationships between young people and adults, both with teachers and with mentors. So your stress with the VIPS organization is largely on those relationships.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, you're right. I have been on quite a few webinars in the last 6 weeks or so, and that does keep coming up as just, I know some of our mentors, we host a virtual coffee hour for our mentors every other Wednesday. And, some of the mentors say, well, I reach out and I've sent emails and I've sent notes, but I don't always hear back. And yesterday we had a couple of the school counselors on the call, and they said, don't worry, just keep sending them. You may not know immediately if they're getting them, but believe me, every positive connection they can get with their mentors is a good thing. So it's true. The relationships piece is huge. And in some ways, it's actually really sort of made us pause and think about how might we continue to do some of these things, even when the schools open their doors and volunteers can get back into the building. Like, what can we continue to do to sort of expand the number of relationships that volunteers can have, even if it is remotely or through the continuity of a pen pal program? I mean, who doesn't love getting mail, right?
Right. And isn't that interesting? So this difficulty has really led to some improvements.
Yeah.
Or some additional experiences that can be put forward.
True. Yeah, even at the board level, I have a fantastic board of directors, and we meet, obviously like everyone else on Zoom, and it sort of made us realize that we can really cut back on some of the time it takes to meet and maybe get some of our work done that way going forward. Of course, we all like to spend time together, but
Yes, people have been said this. Yes, things are not going to be exactly the same when this is over, and so let's hope that things have that all of this experience is going to lead to some good things.
Exactly.
Now, I'm thinking about now, pre-pandemic, in the old days, we used to have an annual dinner for all the VIPs, all 1,000 of them.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so sadly, that would have been on May 5th this year. It's one of our favorite events. It's just a really nice time to get a lot of our volunteers in the room. And a lot of times the volunteers say if they're mentoring, they might not know about our financial literacy programs like Junior Achievement or Earn, Save, and Grow. So it's a really nice chance for our volunteers to sort of hear about the whole scope of things going on in our schools, the different kinds of programs. So our board was able to put together a little video that we shared the day of the dinner. We sent it out, and just as a way to sort of show our appreciation, even if it couldn't be in person.
Now, do some of your volunteers appear in the classroom?
I'm sorry, how many?
Do your volunteers really work in the classroom with teachers?
Yes, so we have sort of made some major focus areas of our program, and classroom volunteers have always been part of the core of the volunteers, helping out in individual classrooms, but also helping out with the specials like art and music and library. So those folks, right from day one have always been a key piece of VIPS. And then additionally, we have some focus areas, and financial literacy is one, and we're really trying to build a foundation of knowledge starting actually as young as kindergarten right up through the time students graduate, so that when students get out of high school and go on to the next thing, they'll have a nice base of knowledge about the importance of saving, interest, credits, credit scores, things that they'll really need to use making good decisions going forward. And then of course, mentoring is near and dear to my heart. We've had that program for 25 plus years now. This year it was our biggest year ever. We have 100 one-to-one matches between adult volunteers and students, K-12. And then we have several spin-off mentoring programs too. Our college mentoring program, of course, which is such an amazing, all 13 students who were in the program graduating this year We're accepted at multiple colleges and all are heading out, well, hopefully heading out in the fall to a college. Then we also have a peer mentoring program, which places high school juniors and seniors with younger students, which is very popular. The younger kids really look up to the high school students and appreciate that. And then our last
mentoring, go on.
Health and wellness is our other major programming area.
Yes. My computer is not, my internet is not too efficient, and so sometimes it's hard to tell when you're stopping. But I wanted to say this about mentoring. So often when we read biographies of successful people whose lives have been so successful, they will point to a mentor, someone while they were growing up who just connected with them. And so mentoring shouldn't be so random. And it seems to me now that with this program, you're making sure that that mentoring it happens often, and to everyone who is interested. It seems to me that all of us might look back at a time in our lives when a mentor would have been really important to help guide. So I think that is a particular strength of your program.
Thank you. Yes, it's really important. In fact, the program started back in 1994, and it was the counselors at an elementary school who came to VIPS and said, we're seeing students, maybe it's a student who doesn't have a bunch of friends at a table. Maybe it's a student who's just moved here, really doesn't know kids yet. Maybe it's someone who's playing alone on the playground. And they thought it would be a good idea if we could have a volunteer come in and meet just with that student, just comes each week there for that student. And I think the students are so amazed, that someone would come in and just to see them. And we hear that a lot from the counselors. If you ask a student, oh, when does your mentor come? They always know the answer. Thursdays at 9:30. So they definitely.
That's wonderful to hear. And you have also an emphasis on wellness. That's not new. Has that always been part of the program?
It's one of our more recent programs, probably within the last 8 to 10 years. Really the focus on I think the term a few years ago that was popular was the whole child. Oh, yes. And it really gets at that whole piece of social, emotional, because schools aren't the same schools that they were when we were growing up. There's a lot more involved in working with students today, and just the idea of just having as many ways for students to express themselves, to talk about issues. So that's what we do through some of our wellness programs. So it's a combination of, exercise, nutrition, mental health, just the overall sort of wellness piece.
Do you have some favorite photographs of adults with children, with their mentors, or outside in the playing outside?
Yeah, we have some that I really love from our elementary school track meet. We run that every year in the fall, and that's an elementary, so K to 4 students come and they race against students their own age from the other elementary schools. That's a really fun one, and the high school students show up to volunteer for that as well. Some of our wellness programs and mentoring have some great photographs. You can just see the happiness on the faces of both the students, but also the mentors. The mentors always say they get as much out of it as the students. So.
Yes. Now, I think sometimes people might think, well, if you're going to volunteer in a public school, you should be a mathematician who knows how to teach mathematics. But that's not necessarily the case. Our community is full of talented adults, many of them in retirement, and you don't necessarily need to be an expert in a particular field, say biology or mathematics or English.
No expertise or experience needed at all. Just someone who's willing to give their time and enjoy spending time with students. I think we have, some of our volunteers prefer working with high school age students, and others really enjoy the little kids and everything in between.
Mhm.
And honestly, we do have some folks who have a specialty in, say, math or science, and they really love sharing that through tutoring or through working through the science fairs and working with students on projects like that. But honestly, we have folks who they don't really have any experience teaching or anything. They just enjoy spending time with children. And that's the only requirement that we have.
And there's so much that a teacher in a classroom, so much help needed, both in collecting supplies and passing out things and maybe helping with grouping with students. So I would think that really I can see why you're saying that no experience is required. It's kind of learning on the job.
It really is in a lot of the cases. And those extra set of hands and ears for a teacher
Yes.
makes such a difference.
Yes, so much is expected today from our schools. So in all kinds of ways, so that the more help that a teacher has, the more effective the teaching and the learning can be. And so now, do teachers connect with you about a special need, and so then you will look for a volunteer to fill that need?
Yes, that's exactly right. So what we have in each of our schools are volunteers called, and there are school liaisons, we call them. So they might be a parent that's at the school. A lot of times they'll have multiple students in that school, so we'll have some continuity there where they really get to know the staff, and the staff will usually reach out to them first to say, oh, I've been looking for someone to help out in my morning reading group. And then that liaison will either draw from their own list of VIPS volunteers that we provided them in the beginning of the year, or if they don't fill the need internally, they'll reach out to the main office, Drade and I, and we can cast a wider net. So yeah, it usually things fill up pretty quickly with say the request is from East Falmouth Elementary. The East Falmouth Elementary pool of volunteers usually fills the need, but a lot of times we'll cast a wider net and we'll get someone else to fill that need.
Is there any sort of a period of adjustment for the volunteer? Not necessarily a training program, but a kind of do the teachers meet with volunteers ahead of time?
Yes, usually what happens, if it's a classroom teacher, they have a very, certain specific need that they have. So like you said, they don't have a training program per se, but that teacher will sort of articulate what the need is, what their intention is, and the volunteer will, work in that schedule. So a lot of times, the more information we can put out about a request. So if a teacher needs someone on Thursday mornings from 9 to 11, that's a much easier way to fill a request because people either know they're free on Thursday morning or they don't. So that's a quick way to get someone. And then some of the programs do require some training. So Junior Achievement, our program leader, Beth, she will provide some training and materials for the volunteers. And they even have the option to go in and watch someone deliver the Junior Achievement lessons before they try it out themselves. So it's kind of a variety. Some just, show up on that first day, get a little introduction to the school, and then begin from there. And others, there is more formal training.
And did you say that a volunteer can offer as little as 1 hour a week?
Yep, 1 hour a year, actually.
Oh,
we have one of our programs that we do every year at the high school is the seniors. They do a senior project, and we have volunteers who come in every year. They love listening to the students present those. So that's one opportunity. Our track meet is another opportunity. So some things that are an annual event. Some folks love helping out with all of the field days at each of the schools. So that's their volunteer. They look forward to that each year. But yeah, we have sort of the whole range. We have that once a year volunteer to people who come in multiple times a week. So it's everything in between.
Yeah, that is extraordinary. It's an opportunity for someone to give as little as an hour or as much as a day or 2 days. It just, it isn't a one size fits all. This is
definitely not.
Yes. So no wonder you have such a large number of volunteers.
Yes, we're very lucky.
Yes, I suppose you're always interested in having new ones.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, and by the way, we ought to let viewers know how they could contact you. You have a website?
We
Or
do. Yep. We have Falmouth VIPS. So Falmouth, VIPS.org is our website. And then our email is still active. The easy one to remember is VIPS, VIPS, at falmouth.k12.ma.us. But both of our emails are also listed on the website as well.
yes, yes, I'm sure those will be put up here so that viewers can be sure to contact you. And so now we'll talk about everything is so uncertain. We're living in very uncertain times. However, you've got to make some plans for September. So what are your thoughts about that? Are you just trying to be flexible?
Oh, well, we definitely have to be flexible, but we're really hoping to get back into the schools. I think we all miss, seeing the kids, the energy that the kids bring into the buildings. I think we all miss each other. Having that camaraderie of your working with your colleagues is very, it gives you a lot of energy. But I think, there's a possibility that even if the kids and the staff come back into the schools, that, perhaps the volunteers will not come back right away into the buildings. So that's why we put so much thought and care into rolling out some of these virtual volunteer opportunities so that we really can continue to support the students, even if we're not physically in the buildings together.
And looking forward, among the virtual experiences that you've been using, among them, which are the ones that you think are really working so well that you'd like to hang on to them?
In a way, I feel like all of them. The Wellness Wednesday piece, we had gotten a grant from the Falmouth Road Race to do that physically in the buildings. And we talked about it and we said, you know what, let's launch this as a virtual wellness opportunity. And now I think when we go back, we may do both. So that's kind of a bonus.
It is.
Yeah, the Pen Pal program, I hope we continue because I know the teachers love to think of the kids getting some writing experience in, but also just that idea of having, another support system through the mail, a little friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the idea of pen pals. Just think of that. And we are at high technology, and yet we're going back to the ancient way of communicating.
Yes, I'm very excited.
That is. Do you have students, foreign language students, who are working with volunteers?
We do, yes. So we have some opportunities for our English language learners to work with volunteers from the community. We're very fortunate in that we have the oceanographic institutions down in Woods Hole, that a lot of times they will have folks who have that expertise and multiple languages that they are fluent in, and they've been a really great resource as well.
Yes, so often the foreign speaker just needs practice in English, and so having a interlocutor is just the best thing. So yes, this is really, I'm sure that you obviously love your work. It's making such a difference.
Yeah, it's very rewarding. I think, every single day when I talk to a volunteer or interact with a volunteer when we're in our schools, it's just the types of people who end up coming into the VIPS program have such fascinating backgrounds and experiences, and they're so great because they want to give back to the community, and they may not have any relatives in the schools. They just ended up in Falmouth and want to give back to the youth. And so, I think that's the beauty of VIPS. That's why it was created back in 1982. And I think that's why we continue to grow, is because it really gives people an opportunity to make connections with the kids.
Yes, absolutely. A win-win on both sides, both for those who have retired and have time, and both for the children in the schools too. And I'm sure the teachers as well. It
Yes.
must be a great boon to them to have some assistance. So we will encourage then viewers who are interested to check your website. And your office is, your office is not in the school department. It's on Gifford Street.
We are located at the high school.
Oh, at the high school, I see. I see, so that people can connect with you by email or check with your website.
Yes.
And connect with you there.
Yeah, and as soon as the schools are open to visitors, we love meeting new volunteers. And so we can do it over email and the phone, but we also can do it in person, which we enjoy.
Yes, yes. Well, I can't thank you enough for being with us and to tell us about this really extraordinary and wonderful program, the Volunteers in Public Schools. Thank you very much, Tracey, for being with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in. I want to especially thank Marilyn Rowland, whose blend of creativity and technological skill makes these programs possible. And thank you for watching, and stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much.